All right, guys, welcome back to the Bench Talk podcast for another Wildcat Wednesday. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. We have another special guest for this podcast. It's going to be Robert from Bald Guys with Guns, and his co-host is Jeremy, who is not with us today, but we're going to be talking about the 6 PRS Moses. We had a couple podcasts ago. We had Jeremiah Manny on, who is the owner and manufacturer of the Moses cartridges. With that, we did have a lot of people asking questions about the Moses cartridges and specifically referencing the sharp neck, right? This is a further improved cartridge line than the Ackley, where the shoulder junction and the body junction has actually been pushed forward. The 40-degree shoulder is left, but you end up eating up some of your neck so that they can gain additional case capacity compared to the Ackley, which really is only eating up the gained case capacity from the taper of the case, along with taking the shoulder from a 20 or 30 degree shoulder, I can't remember what it is exactly, up to a 40. Right, we don't lose any neck on the case. Jeremiah's design pushes that neck shoulder junction forward, and again, you get increased case capacity. And so for the 223 PRS Moses and the 6 PRS Moses, you're getting velocities that are very similar to like the GT case, which is all great. And, you know, this is just a good reminder that in this day and age with shooting and reloading and stuff like that, everything that goes on in the shooting industry for the most part is a hypothesis. This is something Robert and I were just talking about. And so everything is just an assumption of how something is going to go, and right, it needs to be tested. And if you can test something repeatedly and you get a similar result, or you get the same result, right, we can say that that hypothesis is correct. If it's not, right, we're going to say that it's not truthful. And if that's the case, right, then that's when we can actually make a factual articulation that either something works or doesn't work. And Robert is going to be our person who's going to talk about the 6 PRS Moses and his kind of firsthand experience with that. He is not someone who's paid by anyone related to the Moses cartridges or anything like that. So it's going to be someone nice to give us a very neutral point of view when looking at this case design, and his firsthand experience running a 6 PRS Moses and his newest rifle, which is also a 7 Moses, based off the 308 case. So Robert, I apologize for the lengthy intro, but if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and kind of giving some background on Bald Guys with Guns, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Rob. I run the Bald Guys with Guns YouTube channel with my buddy Jeremy. Like you mentioned, Jeremy's not here today, but our channel started out just kind of two guys goofing off with guns and competing against each other, and it led to us developing a love relationship with long range shooting, and kind of just went down that road, and as we did that, we got introduced to the Moses in that way.
And your guys' story on how you guys actually came into contact with your first Moses cartridges was kind of funny. You can actually go back and see it on their YouTube channel. It's one of their YouTube shorts from about a year and a half ago. And would you kind of explain, you know, what piqued your interest when you came across this at a public range?
We were out at a public range. We were filming. Obviously, we can't just tell people to not shoot around us. So we work around that since we don't own our own land that we can shoot on and all that stuff. But one of the people that was there, they saw that we were wrapping up, and he came over and was like, "Hey, do you want to see something cool?" And he just happened to have a 7 Moses rifle and showed it to us. And just like some of your commenters on your podcast with Jeremiah, the first thing we noticed was the short neck. We're like, "That's a weird looking case." And so the guy tells us about it. He's like, "Do you want to shoot it?" And so we got to shoot his gun, and he explained it to us a little bit, and we made the short out of it. And because of him, we learned about Precision Rifle Works, which is a gunsmith custom rifle builder here in Utah. He holds a Sub for Santa event every year to help families out in need. And we got in contact with him to film one of those. And because of all that, we met Jeremiah and learned more about the Moses.
That's awesome. And so you were actually looking at using the Precision Rifle Works out of Utah. You were using them to do a 6GT build, or I guess one of your first custom rifle builds, right? And was planning on doing 6GT up until they talked to you about the 6 PRS Moses.
Correct. So I had contacted Bronson. He's the owner of Precision Rifle Works, and I was asking him questions about wanting to do a custom build, and I'm like, hey, I'm looking at the 6GT. I have a friend that has one. It's stupid accurate, and it's kind of what I'm looking to do. Bronson proceeds to tell Jeremiah what I'm doing, and Jeremiah calls me up and he's like, what the heck, bro? And so he talked me into doing a 6 PRS Moses instead, and I can honestly say I am glad that he did, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Definitely like hearing that, because I think the 223 case is awesome the way it is. And I mean, I've tried to kind of, I guess, improve it as much as I can by running a 223 Ackley with a long throat. Kind of, I guess, in reverse of, right, Jeremiah, right, designed the improved case design with a custom throat for the case. And basically, I'm doing it in reverse. I've gone and gotten a couple 223 Ackley barrels chambered up, and then I actually have a bore riding or bore rider throating reamer from PTG, and I have a couple of them from 7mm all the way down to 22 caliber. And then I actually throat my barrels on my own. So I've tried to kind of duplicate this, but hearing Jeremiah's success with how crazy velocities are and significant, or I guess there's not a significant increase in barrel wear from what he was talking about. I mean, the velocities you guys are getting with the 6 PRS and the 223 PRS Moses are very, very, very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy thing because it's not just your speed increase, it's you're increasing speed and bullet weight, right? Because of the speed increases, you can go up in bullet weight, and when you can go up in bullet weight and still get speeds that are fast enough to get you out long distance, but still in that slower realm, 2900, and you're also using less powder than like your Magnum cartridges are. You save your barrel life in several ways, because you can get the heavier bullet with the higher BC, bring that powder charge to a semi-decent spot, and your speeds are in an area that helps prolong the barrel life as well.
Yeah, and recoil has to be significantly less off that 223 case versus even a GT case, right? Given the fact that you're using so much less powder during the process of combustion when you're sending that bullet down the tube. Have you noticed a pretty easy recoil impulse from the 6 PRS Moses?
So with my build, 100%, but I'm running like a comp build, which is a 27-inch barrel, and it's a straight taper barrel, so my gun weighs like 21 pounds. One thing I will mention, just because you brought up the recoil, I was out at our local gun range that has really nice like cement benches and everything for taking your rifles out to test and whatnot. We were shooting at 100 yards. He had his 6 GT, and I had my 6 PRS Moses, and he said that my gun felt like an air gun compared to his.
That's awesome. So 27-inch barrel, straight barrel, no, like inch 250, no taper. And what twist did you end up going?
1 7 3/4.
Who makes a 1 7 3/4 barrel?
Excalibur Barrels does.
I did not know that.
Bronson was like, no, you should do the 7.75 twist, because it'll be better. And I mean, it's dumb accurate, so I don't think I made a bad choice.
Yeah. I mean, the 6mm are funny, and granted, right, I know nothing about the 6 PRS case, but I mean, at least for my GTs, like I have 2 6 GT barrels, and I'm running a 1 8 twist on both of them, and the one that's actually on my rifle that I have, I don't know, maybe 500 or 600 rounds through. I'm shooting 112s at, I don't know, like 2830 with 36 grains of H40 350. So, I mean, yeah, Jeremiah is literally pushing 112s, the exact same velocity as me with 30 grains of stay ball 6.5. That's wildly impressive.
Yeah. Well, and so for my build, I'm running I'm kind of moving around. What I call my actual load that I want to run competitively is a 109 burger. And I'm running H4895. It's a very temp stable, a little bit faster than Varget. Because the 223 case can only hold so much powder. And it's also a stick powder versus a ball, so it naturally takes up more space in the case. But I'm at 28.8 grains of 48.95, and I'm running the 109s at 28.70.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's great speeds, especially you're looking at guys who are running 6 arcs and comp guns, basically the exact same right setup that you have. Right, they're running 105s at 27.50 out of a 6 arc. So the fact that you're pushing, I forgot, did you say 108s or 109s? But you're still pushing at way higher velocities than those guys are out of a 6 arc.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping up with, from what I've seen, I've been told since making a video on this that, the Dasher and the GT, they can go much faster than this, but the accuracy node and the competition load that I see most people using with a Dasher and a 6GT is about 2850 to 2870 for speeds. And so I'm keeping up with them in a 223 case.
And for most people who don't know this, that is a lot. He's keeping up with cases that have 6 grains more of powder, compared to, again, 6 grains less out of a 223 case, which is, I mean, that really is awesome. It is. That's why when I heard this for the first time, I was like, man, I got to hear more about this cartridge, because that is just so odd. And I guess I'm curious about this because, like I've mentioned a couple times, I'm doing right now I have a 1-8 twist 223 Ackley barrel on my rifle, and I'm just fire forming a bunch of brass. And then I have a fresh 1-7 twist that I'm going to try shooting 88 grain ELDMs out of, just as a trainer rifle, the one that I can have as a backup in case I need to shoot it in a match. But I'm looking at 88s at 2,900 feet a second, maybe 3,000, kind of just depends how fast the barrel is. But I'll be using Varget. In the Moses case, how much Varget are you guys able to actually get in that case, or for usable case volume?
Jeremiah has gotten about 30 grains of Varget in there before it was basically full.
Yeah, like compressed loads.
Yeah, but that's part of the reason I actually ended up going with a faster powder for mine, because at that 30 grains, you're pushing a 109 about the same speed that I'm doing with 28.8. So I save myself a little space. I don't have to crush the powder as much.
Is there a reason why you're staying away from Stayball 6.5 compared to Jeremiah using that stuff?
So it's a little bit slower, but and so obviously it would consume a little more powder. I'd have to use a little more. But my main choice there was I have a personal thing with crushing too much powder. I know that it's doable, and as long as you're not crushing to the point where you're not getting case bulge, or you're not pushing your bullets not getting pushed back out, you can crush quite a bit. But I just have this weird thing about it, and I like to crush as little as possible. So I went with a faster powder, and as long as I'm not pressuring out with it, then that's what I'm going to do. I've also heard that 6.5 Stabal is a little dirtier, so that just, I run suppressed, so the cleaner the powder can be, the better for me.
With your current load for the 6 PRS Moses, have you tried messing around with the 112 grain match burners at all?
I haven't. So I've tested, in my rifle, I've tested the 109s, the 108 ELDMs, and the 105 Aero Match, just because I wanted to see how fast I could push a 105 bullet. And since the Hornady bullets are about $12 less per box, I went with those instead of the 105 burgers.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Those things are very expensive. I mean, burgers are great bullets, but they definitely, the price wise, they're above and beyond. But maybe I'm hoping that we're going to see some of the Barnes bullets, get produced a little quicker and hopefully stay lower value. Because with Sierra taking over Barnes, I was hoping to see them kind of pump those numbers up a little bit more for their match burner line. I've had good luck with their 105s and with those 112s. I like them a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting because Sierra at SHOT Show, they mentioned that they're releasing some heavier grained 6mm bullets. I'm actually quite interested in their 116 grain tipped Match King.
Yeah, I did see that. I saw the guys from Unknown Munitions were talking about that for the 6UM. The 116, they finally just published the BC for it, and it's like 0.61 or 0.60 something, but it's a 0.6 G1 BC, which is right on track with like the 115 grain DTACs, or the 112 grain match burners. So it is really cool to see them come out with a heavier for caliber bullet like that. The 95 grain tip Match Kings were like a favorite of mine years and years and years ago. I don't know, maybe 2018, 2019, when they actually had them out a lot. I was shooting them out of a 243 and a 243 Ackley all the time. They performed very well on game, put giant holes and shit.
Yeah, I actually really like the 69 grain tip Match Kings for my 223. Just standard bolt action 223, but Sierra, I like Sierras and Burgers. They're probably my top two choices for bullets that have pretty consistent ogive measurements and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was listening to your guys's short you did when you were test firing the Aero Match bullets in the 6 PRS Moses, and I heard you chatting about how the base to ogive, you guys had measured a bunch of bullets and it was off by up to like 6 or 7 thousandths on certain bullets. I thought that was interesting to hear. That's always a super annoying thing for me as well when I'm sitting here measuring bullets with a comparator and it's all way off and you figure out it's the the lot of bullets you have.
Yeah, it's frustrating because that inconsistency, if you just load, if you set your seating die and you just load them all, when you go out to shoot, that inconsistency is going to show up downrange on your target. And when you're trying to go out and use an accurate rifle and accurate round and shoot some really tight, 1/4 inch groups or whatever, and you have a round get thrown off because you have a 6 thou difference in the ogive and it throws you out of your node for seating depth, it can be frustrating.
If you wouldn't mind sharing with the listeners, what is your overall cartridge length that you're running? And I'm guessing, if you wouldn't mind sharing, if you're running at like 20 thou off, 30 thou off, so they can kind of get an idea of like how far the free bore is for the 6 PRS Moses.
So you're lucky because I just got these numbers from Jeremiah because I didn't know what the max overall case length could be. But the max overall length Jeremiah says is 2.760.
Okay.
I run my 109s at 2.705.
Okay, so like 70 thousandths a jump.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily because I want to have that much jump. It's that those bullets just aren't long enough to seat in the case and reach that far, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I know he has a very, very long free bore to try to really get the base of that bullet in that neck junction, so the boat tails, in the shoulder, I guess the in between, right, the neck and body of the case, right, it's in that shoulder junction area, so you guys can maximize case capacity. So yeah, I was trying to talk to Jeremiah about that. The last podcast, I asked if he had anyone shooting smaller for caliber bullets, either in the 223 or the 6 PRS Moses, and he said no, and we later chatted about it, and it sounds like it's, because of that super long free bore, that the way his cartridges are set up, which I'm sure he could make a custom one with a short throat, and guys could shoot smaller or shorter bullets, whether it's for the 6 PRS like you're talking about right now, or the 223 PRS.
Yeah, I don't doubt that he could do that if he wanted to. I think just because the idea is to allow you to get the bigger, longer, heavier bullets and still maintain speed and accuracy with them, was his overall goal with the Moses. It probably was the last thing on his mind that somebody might want to run a 62 grain bullet in that long throat and jump a lot and also go like 4,000 feet per second,
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I know you mentioned it when you guys had first seen that guy on public land who was shooting that 7 Moses. What's your idea on the neck? You've shot this case a bunch now. You've reloaded for it. You've done the hydroforming. I guess if you wouldn't mind talking about the hydroforming and you actually fireforming the brass that's been hydroformed and kind of what you've seen, and then also including kind of what you've seen with the neck in your experience.
So I'll start with the neck, because I know that's like a huge thing. They are super short, and on the 223 cases they are they're almost non-existent looking. Like the 223 case is even more radical than your 308 case. But in a video that I made comparing the 6 PRS to the 6 Dasher and the 6 GT, I on film grabbed the bullet in the case, and I set all of my neck tensions to 2 thou neck tension. I use a mandrel instead of the expander that's in your die. I pull it out of the die. I use a separate expander. And so I set 2 thou neck tension, and I grab the bullet, the case, and I try yanking the thing out, and it just won't budge. So it's not like there's an issue holding the bullet in. Funnily enough, in a podcast that we did after you had interviewed Jeremiah, we decided that we were behind the ball, that we hadn't interviewed him yet. So we were like, oh, you kind of sparked us to get on the ball there. And we interviewed him, and he talked more about the neck, and he mentioned how with less neck, as long as it holds the bullet in, there's less variation in how the neck reacts with the bullet as it leaves the case. The longer the neck, if you don't neck turn, there can be different thicknesses around the neck, and that can actually throw off your accuracy, which is why a lot of like your bench rest shooters and your PRS shooters and your F-class shooters, they'll neck turn to make the necks uniform so that kind of stuff doesn't happen. With this small neck, you really don't have to worry about it. I haven't had an experience with any of Jeremiah's rifles or my own where we're not getting very accurate round downrange. To continue on that, I was recently fireforming for both my 6 PRS and my 7 Moses. And with the 6 PRS Moses, I printed a 30-shot group at 100 yards on brass that needed to be fireformed. So like the shoulders were rounded, they weren't sharp. Once you hydroform, you have to fireform, or you're not going to have the right shoulder for later on. But even with that, I was getting single-digit SDs, and in that 30-round group, my SD was 13 with 30 shots, and I had a .9880 inch group in 30 shots.
That's a really good group
and
for
that
a
was,
30-shot group.
yeah, and that's on hydroform brass. After I told Jeremiah that, he was like, "Can you do that with your actual load and see if it's smaller?" So I still have to do that test, but similar situation. I brought out our 7 Moses, my 7 Moses. So Jeremy and I both have 7 Moses rifles. We haven't done a proper reveal video. That is incoming. So for anybody listening that's wanting to see them, that's in the works. But we were out. We're planning on doing EOR matches together as a team, and so we had to fire form. We got 500 pieces of brass. We hydroformed them all. Let me tell you, hydroforming is so fun. And to anybody that can't tell, that's very sarcastic.
Would you mind explaining to them real quick how you guys hydroform?
So you get a hydroforming die. It goes in your press. What you do is you fill up you have to put a spent primer in your case. And then you fill up the case with water and you put it in your press, and you put this little stem on top that goes on top of the die, and you have to hammer that thing down into the case so that the water can expand the brass to the dimensions of whatever the die is set to. So in this instance would be the Moses, right?
Yeah. So this rod that you're talking about hitting is basically acting like a piston, pressing the water that's inside the case down, right? Water doesn't compress. It allows the brass to then expand to the actual like chamber dimensions, which are in the forming die, right? It's the dimensions inside the forming die.
Correct. So we did 500 pieces of brass. We probably swung a hammer 3,000 times in a 6-hour period. So when I say fun sarcastically, you understand why. But I will say, if you've had a bad day and you need to get some anger out, it's definitely a good way to do it.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, so that's the process for hydroforming, and then it doesn't give you as sharp of a shoulder as what your chamber is going to have. So you still have to go out and fire form it. And so we were out fire forming. The normal load that we use in a 7 Moses that most people are running is a 180 grain bullet around between 2850 and 2900 feet per second. Since we were fire forming hydroform brass, we lowered our powder charge down and we were getting about 2750 instead. And even with that, we were printing 5-shot groups at 3/4 inch or better at 100 yards. We took them out to a mile and repeatedly hit a 28-inch plate at a mile, just over and over and over. This is in the video that we have incoming, and we just had a blast. So, a lot of people they hear the word fire forming and they think they just have to go out and shoot into the dirt and waste components and money. With the Moses, you don't have to. You're going to get good numbers. Like, we were still getting single-digit SDs. We just had to adjust our apps that we were using for ballistic data to the speeds that we were getting, and we still got out a mile, and we're hitting just over and over and over at a mile, and it was a lot of fun and good practice.
And that target at a mile, you said was like a 20 by 20 plate?
28-inch round plate.
Yeah, that's impressive to be hitting that repeatedly at 1,700 plus yards.
Yeah, it was super good time. The wind was pretty challenging. Jeremy and I were laying down next to each other and shooting, and he would shoot and miss, and I'd see the dust, and I'd follow up right after him and adjust for what I saw with the wind and where he hit, and would end up just hitting. It would kind of upset him because he would always go first, and he missed a lot more often than I did because I was following up behind him and using what I saw from him to adjust and hit the target.
That's great, though. Especially, I do and granted, I'm just getting into shooting PRS matches, but I mean, that's right. That's the name of the game. That's what everyone's doing when, the next shooter's up. You're just sitting there watching, trying to pick apart what they're doing. If you wouldn't mind, can you share, I guess, some of the details, I guess, how you set up your 7 Moses? Now, granted, for the listeners, Robert and Jeremy are going to do videos on their rifles later, so please go check out Bald Guys with Guns on YouTube, also on Instagram, and you guys can see their video actually live when they post it, which is going to include a bunch of load development for their rifles. But just hearing how you have it set up, barrel length, twist, if it's set up for hunting or for ELR, which I think you mentioned a minute ago, would be kind of cool for the listeners to hear.
Yeah, so we have ours set up for competition, for ELR competition specifically. So again, just like my six I set up as a PRS gun, so it's 21, 22 pounds. Same setup for the sevens. They're about 22 pounds. They're in the MDT ACC Elite chassis, straight taper barrel, 1-in-8 twist, and so the load for my rifle seems to be 180 grain Berger. We actually are going to try the 183 closed nose Sierra Match Kings because we think we can still get that 2850, 2860. Because 3 grains of weight really shouldn't add that much to take that much speed away. So we're going to test those out. But the load I know works is a 180 grain Berger. 51.6 grains of H4350, and it goes 2860 on average. And I do run a suppressor. I like to run, because it's a heavy comp build, I actually run a suppressor called the Whisper Pickle 30 by a company named Northreach Manufacturing, and it's a little bit heavier. It's all steel construction. But since I've got the heavy gun anyway, it doesn't really affect me that way, but it's super, super, super quiet. And then on my rifle, I'm running a tracked Toric Ultra HD 4 to 25 by 50 ELR scope. And Jeremy, his setup is basically the exact same. Our barrel lengths are 28 inches. Also, I don't think I mentioned that. His setup is exactly the same. I think he's got like an extra ½ inch on his barrel because they didn't have to cut off as much on his when we were getting it chambered. The only thing that he doesn't have that I have is the tracked optic. He's currently got a Vortex Viper PST Gen 2 on there, but we think we're going to end up switching that out with a Maven that we have in our collection. If we can get our hands on another tracked, that'll be the way we go, just because the tracks have crazy adjustment in their turrets. We run a 40 MOA rail on the rifles, and with the tracked optic, after zeroing, I have 36 mil of travel, vertical travel. So, out at like 2,200, 2,300 yards, I can, with the 7 mil bullet, I can look at the target and not have to use any holdovers. I can just dial to it.
And that's a massive benefit. That's funny because we were actually talking about that with Jeremiah, and Jeremiah was bringing up that exact thing with, I believe it was his Moses that was off of the 33XC case. He has a buddy shooting it, but he was talking about this exact thing going off of shooting a 2-mile comp. And his that cartridge is shooting so flat, they won't have to use a prism. So the fact that you guys are doing the same thing, but out to a mile and a half with the 7 Moses, same thing. You guys aren't having to use a prism or anything weird like that. And you guys are able to just dial. That's awesome. So that's really cool that the tracked optics have that much travel in them.
Yeah, that optic is the only one that, so Jeremy using his Vortex or even the Maven, he's holding over in the Christmas tree, right, in the scope to do what I'm doing with the tracked. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because so that's his 37 Ultra Moses, and they have a bullet that has such a high BC, and it's going so fast and shooting so flat that they can use an Arkin scope and dial from 100 yards to 2 miles. It's nuts.
Yeah, that rifle is absolutely the definition of a super sender.
I actually was there when they were testing that 37 Ultra Moses, and the numbers with the weight of the bullet and everything. I think at testing they were running like a 402 grain bullet, and it was going like 3188, and it was just insane.
That's super cool that you were there to be able to actually see them test that. Hearing Jeremiah talk about it, it seemed super cool, right? Him saying he said the highest load they had tested was still 15 grains under what they thought the max charge was. And they were using the Hodgdon's US 869, which is, common powder for like the 50 BMG and stuff like that. So that's being 15 grains under powder charge and still throwing a 420 grain bullet at basically 3,200 feet a second is insane. But right, those rifles are lots of money, right? Completely custom action, custom barrels, like legit custom, right? Because they're so overbore. That's a big money rifle.
100%. Like if you're looking to do 2-mile shooting, I don't think you're looking at any guns that are cheap.
Yeah, no.
But it's funny because not only was I there, but we made a short on our channel about it, and I called the title of the short was the 375 Chi-Tac Killer.
Yes, I saw that.
Just because of the fact that it's in a 33XC case, it's using less powder than the 375 Chi-Tac. It's throwing those 400 grain bullets, as fast or faster than what people are normally using in a 375 Chi-Tac.
Yeah, no, it's great. That is really, really cool. It'll be awesome when they actually get a final load together for that and they do some testing for 2-mile. I'd be really curious to see what the results are going to be when they do, their final load development and stuff.
I told Jeremiah that the first 2-mile King of 2-Mile competition that his buddy does, all of us need to be there. I want to film it. I want to be a part of that because I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that has a combination to kind of blow the wheels off the competition if everything works out correctly with that case, which it sounds like it is. I kind of have no doubt that, right, him just repeating this case design over multiple different calibers is going to yield success.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we're involved in the way that we are. I mean, like you mentioned, we don't get paid or anything like that. We just believe in it and we want to be a part of it. Do we hope it leads to something of financial benefit in the future for everyone involved? Of course we do. But I mean, at the stage that it is right now, we like Jeremiah. He's a great person. We like the cartridge. We believe in the cartridge. We have, between myself and my partner, Jeremy, we have 4 Moses rifles of our own. And we really want to see it succeed because we think that it's the future.
See, that's awesome. That's a fantastic note to end on. My last note on my notepad is sold on Moses cartridge ?
I'm going to be making a video that's a practical video, like a practical comparison. My last video I made on the 6 PRS, 6 Dasher, and 6 GT, it was mostly just numbers and data. But I have a buddy who's going to lend me a 6 Dasher at his comp load. I'm going to load up and he's going to run 105 burgers. I'm going to run my 6 PRS with 105 burgers at my accuracy comp load that I would use. And then I have a buddy with a 6 GT who's also going to run 105 burgers at a comp load. And we're going to compare all 3 and do some really fun shooting with them. And I think it'll be very beneficial data-wise, real-life data showing chronograph and all that stuff. So for anybody that's interested in the Moses and what it's capable of, I'm going to put up a 223 case against a Dasher and a GT, real world data.
That's awesome.
Well, and eventually, money, if money happens to be available for said project, I would like to make a 6 PRS Moses in like a 12-pound hunting rig, and compare, a 12-pound hunting 6 PRS Moses to, say, like if somebody has like a 6 GT that's a hunting rig, or a 6 Dasher, or even just a regular old 223. Like I have a Ruger American Gen 2 and 223 that weighs like 8 pounds. I'd like to see what the recoil impulse is on a lighter gun as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be great, and that was a point I mentioned in Jeremiah's. That's why I thought, again, this case was so cool. I get it was made for long range shooting applications for target shooting or PRS related stuff, but the hunting applications for this are awesome. And like you mentioned earlier, like if we were looking at the 223 PRS case, I mean, I could definitely imagine grabbing a 53 grain VMAX and probably pushing it close to 4,000 feet a second with his case design. Be a cool thing for hunting use as well.
Oh yeah, coyotes and rock chucks wouldn't stand a chance.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, selfishly, that's my interest. A lot of my stuff, is shooting, competitively related, but my heart, hands down, still is wholeheartedly with hunting. That's my primary thing. Well, awesome. Again, I really do appreciate it, Robert. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' other stuff that's going to be coming out on the Moses cartridges.
Thank you again for having me, and I appreciate all the shout outs, and I hope that anybody interested will check out our stuff.
Yes, definitely. Again, go give them a follow, guys, and if you guys already aren't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe as well. It does help the algorithm.